Open your medicine cabinet and take a look inside. You will likely see bottles of aspirin for a headache, perhaps some syrup for a cough, or maybe Tylenol for a fever. You see safe, government-approved bottles with child-proof caps. We trust these brands. We trust the colorful labels. We trust that they are designed to heal us and keep our families safe. But just over 100 years ago, the reality was terrifyingly different. If you had a crying baby who couldn't sleep, or a child with a sore throat, the friendly family doctor wouldn't give you Tylenol. He would prescribe a spoonful of heroin. Yes, you heard that right. The same drug that destroys lives today, the same drug that is illegal in every country on Earth, was once the world's most popular wonder drug. Welcome to the Mundane Files. Today we are opening the darkest file in the history of medicine. This is the story of how one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world, Bayer, invented heroin and aspirin in the same 2 weeks. It is the story of how they marketed a deadly narcotic as a safe substitute for morphine, and it is the shocking story of how millions of innocent people were turned into addicts by their own pediatricians. To understand how this nightmare happened, we have to travel back to a world of pain, the 19th century. In the 1800s, pain was everywhere. There were no antibiotics, so simple infections could be fatal. Tuberculosis, also known as consumption, was killing millions. People coughed until their lungs bled, and doctors were largely helpless. They had only one real weapon against pain: opium. For thousands of years, humans had harvested the poppy flower to make opium. It was a miracle painkiller, but it came at a terrible price because it was highly addictive. By the early 1800s, scientists had isolated the active ingredient in opium and created morphine. Doctors thought morphine was a gift from God. They used it for surgery, for headaches, and for anxiety. But soon they realized they had made a grave mistake. Morphine wasn't just a painkiller, it was a prison. Following the American Civil War and the Franco-Prussian War, thousands of soldiers returned home hopelessly addicted. They suffered from what doctors politely called the soldier's disease. The medical world was desperate for a new drug. They needed something that could kill pain without making people addicted. They were searching for the holy grail of medicine, a non-addicted morphine. In a small laboratory in Germany, a young chemist thought he had found the answer. The year is 1897, and the place is the Bayer headquarters in Elberfeld, Germany. Meet Felix Hoffmann. He's a loyal employee and a brilliant chemist, but he isn't just working for money, he's working for his father. Hoffmann's father suffered from crippling arthritis. Every step was agony. He took painkillers, but the standard medicine of the time, salicylic acid, was so harsh that it burned a hole in his stomach. Hoffmann wanted to help his father by modifying the acid to make it safe to eat. He performed a chemical process called acetylation, mixing the acid with vinegar chemicals. It worked. On August 10, 1897, Hoffmann created a stable, safe powder that he named aspirin. It was a miracle that would go on to save billions of lives. But Hoffmann didn't stop there. He was on a roll. 2 weeks later, he wondered what would happen if he did the exact same chemical process to morphine. He took morphine, the dangerous, addictive drug, and boiled it with the same chemicals he used for aspirin, hoping to create a safe morphine. The result was a new chemical compound called diacetylmorphine. Hoffmann tested it on animals, and then, in a move that would be illegal today, he tested it on the factory workers at Bayer. The workers reported something amazing. They said the medicine made their pain vanish instantly. But more than that, it made them feel powerful. It made them feel invincible. It made them feel heroic. So the marketing department at Bayer gave it a name based on that feeling. They named it heroin. Bayer thought they had hit the jackpot. They had aspirin for small pains and heroin for big pains. The best part was that their early, flawed tests suggested heroin was not addictive. They were wrong. Tragically, catastrophically wrong. Heroin enters the brain faster than morphine, making it actually more addictive. But in 1898, they didn't know that. Or perhaps they simply didn't want to know, because the potential for profit was too high. In 1898, Bayer launched a massive global marketing campaign. And this is where the story gets truly disturbing. They didn't sell heroin to junkies in dark alleyways. They sold it to mothers. At that time, tuberculosis and pneumonia were the leading causes of death for children. A child with a bad cough couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and often died from sheer exhaustion. Doctors needed something to stop the coughing. Heroin was marketed as the ultimate cough suppressant. It worked by depressing the respiratory system. It literally slowed down the breathing so much that the child couldn't cough. It put them into a deep, coma-like sleep. Parents were thrilled because their sick, crying babies finally slept through the night. They didn't realize the baby wasn't sleeping naturally. The baby was high. Bayer sent free samples to thousands of doctors across America and Europe. Medical journals praised it. One Boston medical journal in 1900 wrote, "Heroin possesses many advantages over morphine. It's not a hypnotic, and there is no danger of acquiring a habit." It was sold in lozenges for sore throats. It was sold in syrup. You could buy it at the local pharmacy without a prescription. It was as common as buying vitamins today. But the most insane part of their marketing strategy was how they treated addiction. Bayer marketed heroin as a cure for morphine addiction. They told addicts, "Are you hooked on morphine? Switch to heroin. It's the safe alternative." It was like trying to cure alcoholism by switching from beer to vodka. For about 10 years, the world was in love with heroin. Aspirin and heroin were the twin miracle drugs of Bayer, and profits soared. But slowly, the truth began to surface. Doctors noticed that patients were coming back not because they were sick, but because they needed the medicine. If they stopped taking the cough syrup, they would get violent, they would vomit, their bones would ache. They were showing signs of severe withdrawal. Hospitals began to fill up with a new kind of patient. These weren't soldiers returning from war. These were housewives, businessmen, and grandmothers. They had gone to the doctor for a cough, and now they were slaves to a bottle. By 1902, physicians were starting to sound the alarm, realizing that heroin was actually converting into morphine once it entered the human liver. Bayer tried to ignore the reports because heroin was their best-selling product, making them millions. They claimed the doctors were using it wrong. But by 1910, the evidence was undeniable. Heroin was creating a generation of zombies. Admissions to psychiatric hospitals for heroinism skyrocketed. The very drug that was supposed to save people from addiction was creating the worst addiction crisis the world had ever seen. In 1913, Bayer finally stopped making heroin. But it wasn't just because of the addiction, it was because of World War I. When the war started, Germany became the enemy. The United States and its allies began to seize German assets. As part of the Treaty of Versailles ending World War I, Bayer lost its trademark rights. They lost the rights to the name aspirin in America, and they lost the rights to heroin. But the damage was already done. The genie was out of the bottle. When doctors stopped prescribing it, the black market took over. In 1924, the United States Congress banned the manufacture and sale of heroin completely. It went from a medicine cabinet staple to a criminal substance. But what happened to Felix Hoffmann, the man who invented it? Hoffmann lived a quiet life. He retired wealthy, but alone. He never married, he never had children. He died in 1946. His legacy is split in two. With one hand, he created aspirin, which saved millions of lives and is still used every day. With the other hand, he created heroin, which has killed millions and destroyed countless families. It is one of the greatest ironies in the history of science. You might think this is ancient history. You might think, we are smarter now, we would never make that mistake again. But look at the news today. In the 1990s, pharmaceutical companies released a new wonder drug for pain called OxyContin. They told doctors it was non-addictive. They marketed it for everything from back pain to sports injuries. Does that sound familiar? History repeated itself. We are currently living through an opioid crisis that mirrors the heroin craze of the 1900s almost perfectly. The chemical names change, but the story remains the same. A powerful company selling a dangerous drug as a safe solution. So the next time you take an aspirin for a headache, remember its dark twin. Remember that for over 20 years, the most dangerous drug on earth was sold as a blessing for children. And remember that the line between medicine and poison is often just a matter of marketing. This has been the Mundane Files. If you were shocked by this history, hit that subscribe button. We uncover the dark truths that textbooks leave out. And tell me in the comments, do you trust Big Pharma? The file is closed.